Hey, George, welcome, man.
Hi, Ken. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. You know, you've been one of my best friends, and we've been able to journey together for many years. You're actually moving into your next season, and you're moving into what I call the convergence zone. And the way we define that, there's something stirring, there's a sense there's something new and next, but we're not exactly sure what it is, or we're not exactly sure how to get there. So you're in the in between season, and I want you to help us, if you would, flesh this out for many people who are trying to move into their next. Maybe they
Okay.
have clarity, but they're on the journey. It's not all coming together for them yet. Here's the first big question I find. I always say that in our challenging seasons, whatever those seasons are and however we get there, God often does his most beautiful and his deepest work in those seasons.
Yeah.
And because you've been navigating through this, what would you say God has been doing in your life in the in between season of your life?
The in-between season. Yeah, I do think that that gap is always fraught with peril. I think that we always deal with self-doubt when we hit that
Oh,
stretch because the questions come up in our mind about should I have left where I was, regardless of what that is? Am I really headed in the right direction? There is that necessity of faith because you're like Abraham, you do go out and you don't know where you're going.
where you're going.
Yeah. Now,
Yep.
one of the translation actually has a little add-on to that. It says that Abraham went out not knowing where he was going, and he didn't trouble his mind about it. I
Wow.
think if you get stuck asking too many of those questions, did I miss God? Is it over? Should I have left? Just all those self-doubt issues. It tends to slow you down because perhaps you're just not even asking the right question.
Hmm.
What
That's huge.
just enough to slow down and say, okay, what are we doing here, Lord? And
Yeah.
I would say that for me, and I've observed this with other people too, is that you usually end up having to face the personal work in your life, the adjustment in your own thinking, your own condition of soul, the adjustment in your own emotions before you can actually
Mm.
go on to doing. Because sometimes we tend to see life as vocational or strictly occupational, that I went from this job to this job to this job. And with the Lord, it's not always like that. You can finish, if you will, an assignment, but then you find yourself in a place where the Lord is talking to you more about you before
Mm.
you're even ready for that next assignment. So,
That's really good.
so to answer your question directly, in my own life, I had found that as I was moving out of where I had been and into kind of this strange new place, I found myself having to say, okay, what are the questions? What are the issues that I might have to address here? And I mean this lightly. Is there something wrong? Is there
Mm.
some area of growth? Is there some
Yep.
area of issue? Because I think it's easy for us to think that, oh yeah, we're all ready to go, but the Lord knows when we're ready to go.
Mm.
Issues of timing, issues of forgiveness,
Mm.
issues of skill. Are you prepared to do what might be coming next? The troublesome part of it is that if you don't know what's coming next, then it becomes all about trust.
Mm. Yeah. Well, trust is a big thing. I know for you, it's the same thing for me when I've gone through transitions and moved to convergence. I find deepening or challenge and then hopefully deepening of our identity
Yeah.
because we're leaving something and we're moving to something else, but we're in the in between. We don't know what that is, or if it's even going to work or not. Was that something you had to navigate, and how God prepared you for moving into your next?
Yeah, I would say so. If we just talk occupationally, we often think in terms of I had one job and I found another. So now I'm leaving
Yep.
this job and I'm going on to the next job. But again,
Yep.
in walking with the Lord, you find yourself you're hanging on to one rope and the Lord is pointing toward another rope. The problem is your arms are just too short to bridge that gap. You can only hang on to one at a time. So you're
Mm.
going to have to let go of the one rope while you're drifting, so to speak, across.
Yep.
It does make me think, though, of Jesus in the wilderness. There was always kind of a couple of clarifying points to me in that passage that it says that Jesus was led of the Spirit into the wilderness. It doesn't say that he messed up and ended up in the wrong place. It doesn't say, oops, he took a wrong turn. It genuinely says that he was led. And the temptation or the trial really that he faced to me was one of self-worth more than it was anything. Are you sure that you're the Son of God? Since you are the Son of God, why don't you? You know, there was the temptation of power. There was the temptation of self-identity. And I would say for myself, it's not that I was experiencing things in the same way, but I was having to look at myself and say, can I trust God even if I don't go any further in my life? Do I still have value? Can I set aside what can I accomplish in life, or how high can I climb? You know, that fleshly ambition, basically. I mean, can I set that aside and still know that the Lord loves me? Having been a Bible teacher for years, I mean, it's easy if you're not careful to start using a gift for your own ego. You know, that I'm going to satisfy myself with this. People can relate to me, you know, because I'm a great teacher, or, you know, just kind of that mentality. Instead of being able to say, do I have true worth? Am I valuable to the Lord, even if I don't have this gift? And that's just an example.
How much did you experience? Did I miss it? Have I made a major mistake? Has God moved on from my life and just kind of left me? How many of those things were real? And if so, how would you say you tried to re-anchor in this process of the in-between?
I think the question that I had more than anything else was that I was behind, that I was too slow, or that I was not doing enough to keep the pace.
I bet a lot of people can identify with that.
Yeah, you're thinking like, okay, I know what's to come, because I do think this is one thing that's interesting about the way the Lord can talk to people, is that he is pointing you toward an objective sometimes, and we like to think linear. I mean, we make this straight line from where we are to where we're going to be, and it doesn't always necessarily work out that way. And for me, it always seemed to cause a sense of, I'm moving too slow. Okay, I know where I'm going, but I'm just moving too slow. And as time would go on, I would start to realize, as always, you know, timing is half of life. You know, it's not just the what, it really is the when, that you do have to slow down enough, be patient enough to allow the Lord to work things out in your life, and to maintain that posture of heart, if you will, that the good work he's begun in you, he'll perform it unto the day of Jesus Christ, instead of getting, you know, again into the self-doubt.
Really good. I always say, one of the phrases I've used, I think it's a principle of the kingdom, that God first works in us.
Yeah.
And then he wants to more profoundly work through us. But that's the preparation for what's next type thing. So we often go through that in the in-between season. What would you say has been the greatest challenges of you living in this in-between season? Because you're kind of still there. You have more clarity now, and you're taking steps, but you know, you've had a bit of a gap of the in-between. What has been your biggest challenge or challenges in this in-between season?
I think it is learning to do things all over again in a different way. You know, that you have to acquire a new skill or learn to do it differently. You know, and having been involved in ministry for 40 years, you know, the world looks different today than it did in the 80s, in the 90s,
Absolutely.
in the 2000s. People think differently. They access information differently. Churches are different. And many of the experiences that I had through the 80s, 90s, and into the early 2000s had a tendency to be one particular way. And even though I knew what the direction of the Lord might be for me, I was like, how? I mean, how is it that I can reach this generation? Because it's just so totally different than the other one. And the best way I can describe that is that if I were to say to you, hey, throw a baseball with your dominant hand, you wouldn't even think about it. You would automatically step forward with your left foot. You'd rotate your hips. You'd throw the ball. But if I said to you, throw a baseball with your less dominant hand, you would have to think about the mechanics. I mean, it's the exact same thing. You're not doing anything any different. You're throwing a ball, but now you're having to do it in a way where there is no muscle memory. You have to be deliberate about the muscle groups you use, and the mechanics of just throwing a ball, something that is so reflexive from your dominant side. And I would say that I have felt that way to a certain extent, that I can still teach just fine, but how do I do this now differently? How are these other skills how do they need to be cultivated? Because the what remains easy. The how and the when, those become the challenges, the how and when, because most people do have the what. They know what the what
Yeah.
is. It's
Yeah.
how do
That's
I
really
get from
good.
here to there?
I've seen you. It takes effort. It takes intentionality. It takes investment of time, effort, energy, the learning curve, sometimes money to learn more
Yeah,
skills.
yeah,
Because we never just, I think, wake up overnight and we're there. Hey, I'm in my next season. I don't have any data on this. There may be some out there, but my observation after coaching really hundreds, George, through Convergence into their next season, it appears it takes 3 to 5 years to even find your sweet spot as you move into your next season. So it's not like just one day you're out of one chapter and the next day you're in your next. It takes some time, even once you make the steps,
yeah.
to hit the sweet spot. Are you finding that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to me, the analogy that I tend to use is that if you've ever driven a ski boat before, you can turn on a dime. I mean, it
Yeah.
does not matter how fast you are going. You can turn right now. You could flip a boat if it had enough power and you made the turn too sharp. But a battleship, that's a different story. And frankly, our lives are more like battleships, and that's not an insult to anybody, but our lives
No.
are just more like battleships. We set the
Well,
rudder,
go ahead.
and it
Yep.
pulls hard. It drags water for a long time, and it swings slowly in the direction that we need to go. Now, we want to be the ski boat. We want to
Yep.
turn, and we want to do
Yep.
it right now.
Yep.
But patience-wise, you set the rudder and you wait for the boat to swing.
That's good. I would say the older we are, we don't have to be old, but the more that we have built,
Yeah.
the more that we have done, the more years we have, the larger the ship becomes,
Yeah.
because there's a lot involved at stake in just turning it. If you're single and 20, hey, let's try this, hey, etc. But when you get a little bit further down the road, it does take longer to turn the ship. And I think you're exactly right on that. Hey, if this is you and you're really identifying with this conversation, maybe you started on the journey to your next season, or maybe you're being stirred, there's something next. We call this convergence, bringing everything together kind of in your life to hit the next season. And we have a PDF that we offer people. So if you'd love that, it's in the link below. It explains convergence a little bit more, and we'll also give you some practical steps to move in that direction. And that's exactly where George is at as well. George, the last question in fleshing this out is, what is your why in moving to your next season? Why do you even want to do it? Because again, there's headwind, there's time, there's investment, there's effort. It's easier to stay where we're at for many of us. Well, I'm good. I'm all right. What is your motivation and what keeps you motivated to move into your next?
Yeah, that is a really good question, simply because if you would have asked me that question 40 years ago, it would be completely different than it is now, which tells you a lot about convergence. That as the Lord is building your life toward its most fruitful stage, which I do believe that your latter years should be your most fruitful. Yeah, that's where all of the work the Lord has done in your life and all your labor together with Him, if I can say it this way, should pay off.
Yep,
Should
comes
produce
together.
something.
Love it. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, and I think the example that I would use in that case is that I remember when I first started out teaching, that people would talk about the necessity of faithfulness, that you have to be faithful because one day you'll stand before the Lord and you'll give an account. And, that's not such a bad thing to tell people that are young, because sometimes kids that when they're, teenagers, 20, 21, whatever, they're kind of drifting around and they need to be told, hey, be loyal.
Yep.
This is something you should do in life. Be consistent. And so that was a good thing. But somewhere along the line for me, it kind of turned into a sense of obligation. Oh no, I'm going to give an account one day. I better do this. And I came to a place where I started to grow out of that. Growth is never a flip of the switch. It's always this
Yep.
process. You turn around and go, whoa, I grew. And sometimes you don't notice while it's happening.
Yeah.
But I kind of grew to this next stage where I was thinking more about how I should teach for the benefit of people. I mean, that's what this is about. It's so that they can benefit. It's so that they can know the truth. It's so that they can experience the good things that I've experienced from biblical truth, so that their lives can be touched and grow. That was my second one. But my third one, and this is the one that answers your question directly, is that today I would say, owe no man anything but to love him.
Oh, wow.
And that out of a motive of love, that's why I want to do it now. I'm not afraid. Oh no, I have to stand before the Lord. I'm not thinking only in terms of what somebody else might benefit, but I look at all the work that the Lord has done in my life and all the goodness that he's done to me. And it just seems insane. If I can use so strong a word, it seems
Yep.
insane not to benefit others just because it's a good thing to do. Owe no man anything but to love him.
That's phenomenal. Well, George, I want to commend you because I've watched you walk through this. I know you're taking some, big steps into your next, and a lot of things are starting to come together for you. It's an
Yeah.
exciting time. And one of the reasons this is so big for me, I call this a defining moment. We use three different C's: the caution zone, the crisis zone, convergence zone. And this is a convergence zone, is because this is where people can get stuck.
Yeah.
They can stall out and not stay on the right track to ultimately finish well. Because we all want to finish well. We all want to hear the Lord say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." And yet moving to this next season is really important. So if this has helped you in any way, George, kind of the interview fleshing out convergence and in the in-between zone, then a couple different things. This next video would be extremely helpful for you. And then also the PDF on convergence, the link is there. And then the third thing, I'd encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let's not miss the opportunity. Let's encourage, provoke one another on to move through defining moments and to finish well. Thanks.